trail has been repaved, looks nice, I've walked it. Now we just need some rain. I think I said that
To
before.
test it?
Not yet. One wants a little more time. I'd like to see some, not a lot of it, but a slow, steady. That'd be my thing. But that's the report.
Awesome, thanks, Van. From the PD, the e-bike crash is certainly something that's concerning. Our canine located both methamphetamine and cocaine over the last several weeks, which is exciting for our canine unit. A couple of DUIs on the July 4th holiday, and we're getting close. We've had some interviews on our candidate to fill our open position, and son plays on the 8-year-old machine pitch, and I had a mob of adults, mob of parents surround me because it was that 100-degree day down there, and the question that was brought up: why don't we play our machine pitch in the city center? I told them I thought it was because of parking, but I'll talk to Heath. What is our reason we don't play there in the sweet shade rather than over at Pheasant Brook in the sun?
That'll work. Yeah, really, I don't think we have. We just haven't considered it. We have this field available for renting, and so it's just been down there. Shade is in a desperate need, trees are a desperate need down there, but geez, Jake, I don't think I've ever really considered it. Parking will be an issue.
Yeah.
But let me take that back to the team, because that's a good question.
Taking that back to the team, I grew up playing there, and I know there's a lot of people with a lot of nostalgia for those fields, but the shade would be really nice on some of these hot days. My son's playing Thursdays at 5 o'clock, and it is the heat of the day, and there's just no shade to be found.
Agreed. I will. I'll follow back up.
Are we looking at doing trees down at Pheasant Brook?
Yes,
More
but not right
shade
there.
structures?
Shade structures, yes. We're trying to put together, if we can put a grant package together, probably this fall, to try to get that shaded and the concrete redone, so the different levels of broken concrete and the footings put in. So yes, that's on the list for the teams, the bleachers, and around that area.
Had the opportunity with the mayor in Lincoln to entertain a international grocer. I don't know if that's a name we're putting out yet, but I appreciate the mayor's efforts in trying to bring large businesses, important from the sales tax revenue standpoint, to our 700 North Corridor. I think those meetings were fruitful and helpful. So that's all I have.
The communities that care, the next event there'll be at the Friday movie at Friar Park. If you're watching Moana, they'll have a table there giving away some things. Efforts. Tree Board is having their meeting next week, it looks like. With the school district, tomorrow there's a Meet the Candidates evening at the community center. It starts at 6:30, and from 6:30 to about 7, it's just meet and greet. You can go around to the candidates' tables. Then from 7 to 8, there's a Q&A panel, and then from 8 to 8:30 more.
All the candidates said they were showing up, do you know?
You know, I don't know that actually.
It's being, so
I've
we
seen
provided
4.
the space,
Yeah.
but Shannon Pence,
I've seen 4 of the candidates signal by saying, hey, come meet me. So, but that's just unofficial.
just a couple notes. We've had a senior barbecue this past week.
Thank you very much.
Pretty cool. That was great. So they had a good time there. talked about 2000 West where we had, the whole canal is now redug. You should take a drive out there. The road is repaved. It was a little bit.
Slope, so all the drainage.
That road won't flood anymore.
They'll be
Hopefully.
working on the collars, the collars
Yeah.
around manholes.
Yeah, it looks great. So the capacity was increased what?
Had culverts were only a 40-inch pipe. Now those culverts are 8 foot wide by 6 foot
Yeah,
tall.
It's really kind of,
So
the
there's
road is
plenty.
beautiful. There's more and more people that are, that's a really great connector from 1600 north. How did they structure their water rates with the secondary water and the metering as we try to wrap our heads around, over the next couple of years? The state has a mandate that we have to audit and my goal from the time, I became mayor was some cities are just sticking in that, they're billing that water as soon as those meters. About education.
That's my quote. We're going doing this too long. Forget my own quotes. That is a good one. I do love that quote.
All right. Anyway, we'll have more information about that coming forward, but first educating us as a council as we try to wrap around those decisions. Five, our administrators report.
Let's see, just a couple reminders there. In August, we only have one meeting this month in July, and then in August, just one meeting on August 4th, and then September is a Tuesday, so please put that on your calendar, September 2nd. I did have a chance to meet with Desiree Green, and she is interested in having some sort of meet the candidates night. So I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on setting a date, late September or early October, or other things that we could do instead of a question and answer thing. We could have just an open house. And people
love to be there, but I don't want to take away
I
time.
have some questions
Yeah.
I've been wanting to ask you, but I want to do it in a public.
How bad?
Accountability.
Okay.
So I'm just looking for suggestions or feedback if we format it similar to prior years then, is that what it?
Always done it with the youth council like they did last time?
Most years, yes. It's not been youth council, it's been the student council.
Similar opinion as candidates, I mean.
Yeah, I think we.
Whatever you guys wanna do, we are in.
Yeah, and prior councils have had input and say on this, and even though they've been, and so.
As far as the format, I'm open.
Open up for surprise questions or not? I thought
No,
people
we
did
did
that.
not do that last time.
Those can turn on.
It
It becomes a
mixed
forum
things,
for
yeah.
somebody to have to just vent. Right. Things that have
Like
nothing to do
marijuana
with our
legislation.
What about cannabis?
Federal.
Um,
Federal. Not city.
The format, I don't know that I have recommended.
I'll send out a few dates and see what.
Find out when the ballots are being mailed, then you just back up a little bit off of that.
Correct. Is, just another reminder that starts a week early this year, so we're starting on July 28th.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, the mics, I don't know what's going on, I reset the system twice. Up off of these two ceiling mics for the YouTube channel, if you
Okay.
crank the volume all the way, you can kind of hear it, so.
It is on YouTube. We're now.
It is on YouTube right now. We have a part two because I reset the system, so.
That leads to item number 4, excuse me, 6. This is the approval of the minutes.
I'll motion that we approve the city council minutes of June 16th, 2025.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. The minutes are approved. We have our, this presented.
Isn't as bad when you're not driving.
So just a quick overview of these items. We've got a surplus equipment disposal. This is for multiple Ford F-150s. It's 8 of these. Were from a few years ago, our police department. They've been problematic. new ones this year, and we received those, so this is the recreation grant agreement between Utah County and Lindon City. This is
Yeah, it's, just so you know, that's about it's a little over half. We've saved that grant that's available, $5,600 until they won't let us save it anymore. So we tried to get as much as we could, but that pool stuff, is expensive, but it will cover half of that pool amenity as it starts fiberglassing and, getting scratchy and getting aged, sitting out in the sun.
Will it be similar to the previous one, or?
It'll be a little bit bigger and a little bit wider and a little bit taller, so it'll be a little bit different, but it's the same company, and I think it'll be translucent.
next item in there is this license agreement with Provo River Water Users Association. This is an agreement allowing us to this is dealing with the reconstruction of the detention basin off of 835 East. It overflows across the canal, and we regraded some of the shore.
All right, council, any questions about these items?
Motion, I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Aye.
Any opposed?
Great work, Keith.
Yes.
Grants, I know I've said this a few times, if we can find a way to incentivize, you got five heavy hitters when it comes to grants in this room. I don't know how we incentivize that or if any other cities do, but man, I love when we get money, and it's never free money because it's coming from somewhere, but when it's money that we're not having to tax for, it's just so great. I don't know whether it's a gift card or if there's a way to incentivize that. That's, high level, throwing that out there for a future discussion because really appreciate the efforts there.
By the planning commission. So
I make a motion to open a public hearing.
motion by Councilmember Broderick, seconded by Councilmember Stewart.
Aye.
All right, we'll have Mr.
Attended a council meeting and talked about how she'd like to build a porch on the front of her home, but the city ordinance precluded that because her front of her home was at the 30-foot front setback. And so application to amend the city ordinance. Their request was to amend the city ordinance to allow a porch to project 8 feet into the front setback. Currently, our ordinance only allows a 2-foot eave off the roof to extend into the front setback. And so the planning commission reviewed that. They instead wanted to have a 30% encroachment into the front setback. And so that would allow, on a 30-foot setback, that would allow a 9-foot encroachment with a home for a home. And then their recommendation also was to allow that porch to be 25% the width of the single-family home, or sorry, the dwelling. And I need to. Our applicants agreed with that, and so the planning commission reviewed this over 2 meetings and then made a recommendation that front porches encroach 30% of the front setback and then 25% width of the home. One change that I made it in your staff report, they wanted the planning commission changed it from single-family dwellings to dwellings. So they wanted this, I had originally had the language as single-family dwellings. They said, well, what if someone's got a duplex? They could put a nice porch on the front of it too. And so I had changed this in your staff report to dwellings, but I failed to do it in the actual ordinance. And so I corrected that, and the official version is now with Brittany, that it just says dwellings instead of single-family dwellings. But the ordinance reads as follows. One, dwellings in a residential zone may have a front porch that projects into the front yard setback if the following requirements are met. The porch has the entrance facing the street. The front porch may project up to 30% of the allowable front yard setback. If the porch includes a roof structure, the roof structure shall be included in the 30% projection allowance. Stairs to the porch shall be included in the allowable projection percentage. The porch may extend up to 25% of the width along the front elevation of the single-family home. The porch shall remain open on 3 sides. Porch walls are allowed if they're no taller than 40 inches, as the portion of the porch within the front setback does not include space for any other uses, such as this was the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and be glad to answer any questions if you have any. I've also included in the table there projections from other cities that they allow. Ogden's example of their ordinance, they had some really good language, and so we've used a few of the items from their ordinance. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place, you know.
For me, it's 30% of the allowed setback, not necessarily 30% of what the setback is. And so if I had a 100-foot setback, I couldn't do a 30-foot. It's the setback.
Caps out.
Off the setback.
Caps out.
Off that 30-foot setback, yes. Yeah,
Did
we
I-
had a long discussion about that with the planning commission, because I had that same concern, and they're like, no, it's just that front identified setback requirement.
Did I read the planning commission continued it once?
Yeah, so I really didn't know the direction they were going to go with that, so I didn't prepare an ordinance.
Okay, perfect.
And so we had a discussion about it, then they said, let's go back and prepare the ordinance with this language.
I had read that and was curious if there was dissension. Really love this and have been excited about this one. This one, for a lot of north-facing homes, this is going to be a major relief.
I guess for me, I broadly don't have many issues with it, but I guess I was curious about the prevailing wisdom, because it looked like on average, the other cities, when you just across them, it's about it is 4.06 feet projection. Going from our 2 foot to now 9 foot, we would be at the top of the range. What is the wisdom of regulating this anyway? Like, why do we care what people can do with their, I guess I'm just trying to think of why not? And it seems like so many cities are doing this, and in smaller increments. It's giving me a moment to pause and say, is there something I'm missing? Like, why do so many cities care so much about how long a porch goes out? Or
One, you're setting setbacks for consistency. That way, you know, you make sure you've got enough driveway depth and those types of things for most. As far as why over the board, 4 to 5 feet to 10 feet, and I think it's just how much the city wants to let that encroach. Most cities, like, for example, Cedar Hills, they don't let you project at all.
yeah.
I think that's because they're saying you've got to keep that home, that porch is already, needs to be included in the front setback. So I think maybe some cities haven't thought about covering the stairs, and the importance of that, especially on a north-facing home.
Kind of felt kind of arbitrary, when you look across at all these things, so I didn't know if there was prevailing wisdom about that, so.
I imagine the origins of setbacks was both cities wanting to have consistency and having neighborhoods look similar, but also neighbors becoming frustrated with, what I mean? And so I agree, it's an interesting question to think, why did we start regulating this? But
40 inches. So some of the older homes you'll see have kind of that porch wall. And so this would continue, this would allow that, but not enclosing it.
Arlene, any comments? Anything you'd like to add?
State your name at the.
I'm Carlene Vinker, and Nick and I were at the Planning Commission meeting, and we're very, very pleased with their openness in discussing this, and I came away very pleased with their what am I trying to say? Just looking at it with an open mind and allowing a cover over stairs and how it is for safety and also more attractive homes. The concept of it never being able to be used as a storage area or a living area, but just strictly covering the stairs. I just really appreciated their open-mindedness. I like the point of when did it become the city's dictate, I agree a neighborhood looks better if it's uniform, the homes are set. I need a cover over my stairs.
So
The bottom line.
in your situation, about how much of an overhang are you hoping to install?
How many feet were we? Come on, Nick, come help me here.
Yeah, versus 8 feet.
8 feet, 7 foot 11 and a half, 8 feet.
I'm Nick Slade, Slade Group Contracting. Also, my wife is she's my wife's grandmother. Family thing going here. Yeah, just under 8 feet, I believe, is what we have drawn. If it's allowed for a little bit more, then we might use up that distance, if possible.
So to Cole's question, this would be 9 feet potentially top of the list of cities.
One. The stairs, I know that it won't be 100%, but.
Thank you.
It really was a unanimous.
Are there a range of front setbacks in Lindon? Or 30?
30 is for our R120 and R112 zones. If you go down to Anderson Farms,
the smallest that we?
That, typically at Anderson Farms, I believe it's 20, except for that final phase that we've done, it's between 12 and 20. Like the front of the home is 12 feet away, the garage sits back 20.
Those on the small single-family ones, we
Yes.
remember those,
Yes.
which is an outlier for sure.
Because will that be weird, 30% of those?
Because it's a smaller number, 30% of 12.
Because if you're
You're
already
not
that
talking
close to
4
the
feet.
side, I mean, you'll be,
And those already have a porch, sort.
then they'll be like 8 feet from the sidewalk.
They already have a porch that's covered, that's at the.
And it extended.
Costly too, it's not like.
Had that discussion of whether we should exclude a certain zone, and the commission said, no, if it's something that can improve a home, that was their recommendation, but.
Adam has some comments, he's part of the
Yes, I
public.
was gonna, go ahead.
Well, just a comment, years ago, when we changed from accessory dwelling unit, detached units, and there was a lot of fear that this is gonna proliferate and go mad, and we've had a dozen, you know, I mean, the realities of somebody even knowing about this, let alone planning to add a porch to the front of their home is really small, in my opinion. And so I wouldn't expect this is something that proliferates all throughout the community.
It's not a bad thing, right?
People are financially constrained, and
The aesthetic
this
too.
isn't something I see
I
as.
think it looks, specifically, I think this will look great.
We recently remodeled that home about a year and a half ago, and in the winter, those stairs were a bit gnarly, hauling in materials and such.
Gnarly, can we get that in the?
I love
Put that in the minutes, gnarly.
In cases where it's gnarly, especially.
And this is your former home, correct, Ms. Finkers?
Yes.
And this did have a porch added onto it, not sure, you know, probably didn't meet the code, but, you know, I think it's very attractive, and that's what, you know, she wants to now do on this home that she's moved into.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing unless there's any other comments. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Broderick to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, back to you, council.
My only other question is, are we okay to, am I okay to make a motion as presented, or do I need to specifically point out dwellings versus dwelling, or am I fine to just
Dwellings.
as?
Dwellings, not single.
Does he need to?
I was out for that,
Oh.
for that part of that discussion, I'm
You
sorry.
probably, I would,
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 2025-8-0 with the change of striking single family and leaving it as just dwellings.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Broderick. We have a motion on the table. Any further?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Long process, but you got there.
Send us some
Thank you.
pictures when you're done. Gnarly. Gnarly, and then lack of gnarliness.
All right, we're moving now to item number 9 on the agenda. Also a public hearing for an ordinance regarding street classification updates and motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, seconded by
city engineers have went through our evaluated that and highlighted the roads that are on your screen there. And those should probably be upgraded to arterial type road. Arterials, and what they did was they're suggesting that we create a new classification. So we have minor arterials and major arterials. So a minor arterial will be the same width or similar road width as a collector street or a local commercial street. Are highlighted on the map are currently collector streets, and they would be upgraded to minor collector or minor arterial or major collector. Sorry, minor arterial or major arterial. Sorry, we're creating those two classifications. These roads identified would be minor arterial roads. Sorry about that. Too many minor majors, and so. One of the reasons for that is we've been working with MAG, and the road is designated as an arterial street, then we're able to apply for funding through MAG. And we have some road needs. Then we can apply for MAG for those funds. Those would be minor arterial roads. The road width is not changing. The speed limit is not changing. By changing the designation, we're now able to apply for funding in the future. So the changes before you would do three things. One, it would amend the city code to now designate that we have minor and major arterial streets. Number two, it would amend the development manual add for that 66-foot right-of-way, a minor arterial to be the same width as collector and local commercial streets. Arterial street would be 82 feet and above. That would be your State Street and your 700 North roads. So those are minor arterial will still be a city road. And then the third item is it amends the master plan map to change the designations of these roads. The three things that it does on there. General plan, recommends that we work with MAG on coordinating street design. Recommend that we try to hold on to our community so we control what happens to them with such things as traffic calming, those types of items. So with that, do you have any questions for me? Or Adam, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd love to add something. So we've been talking about this a lot, and I think what's important to note is us may feel growing pains about, redesignating. The reality is we are growing. That's definitely part of the discussion, is we're not just going to call these minor arterials.
Just the technicalities that we have to play with when it comes to UDOT and MAG and how they designate the roads. you can see that the same road is the same right-of-way, but it has three different classifications, and with those classifications, we get to play a little bit with the safety of it. What we can, some of them we cannot put speed bumps, but in some of them we can do that, and we can do chokers and other things.
Are there, what about width? Does it,
You can see that the same width is for,
no,
Leave them the same.
it's just that designation that Max says, if it's this, you can apply for this.
allowed to do speed bumps on
So the
arterials?
speed bumps is the roads that we designate as safety routes.
Yeah, so we've already adopted primary response routes, roadways, and most of our collectors are already designated as those where you can't put in active traffic calming, so a speed bump, but you could do chokers or speed limits or striping, narrowing, things like that, so.
Go down to, talk a lot about the widths and this and that, but everything stays the same.
Classifications. And the funding we need potentially.
One item sorry, this is one other change, which if you decide to approve this and make your motion, on number 2 that's highlighted there, I do need you to look at that. So it should say collector and arterial streets may be designed to at least 35 feet. So I need you to, when you do your motion, that it say maybe.
Was working on fumes.
That's Friday.
3 hours sleep. I had no sleep either. Anyway, so that we had great success. We were in front of explain the scenario and
So is in the report you'd said the difference, it's like between cities and connected to a major street, I mean, so there's just like two qualities that would lend it to an arterial instead of a collector designation.
say, hey, MAG, UDOT, we want to change the
Yeah.
classification of this road. There has to be
A couple of things the engineers looked at was if you're connecting between two state highways, so
That was
State
the
Street
State
and
Street.
River Connector.
Yeah.
Or if it's a significant roadway that crosses multiple jurisdictions, so that's where 400 East, you're going up.
And 800 North only has future designations. Is there a reason why it doesn't have in the finished part of the road a designation?
Majority of that section, in fact, all of that section, that's the future designation, is technically in Pleasant Grove. So our city boundary's on the south side of that future roadway. And so even though we're participating and collecting right-of-way with PG, technically that section of the road is not.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
If I didn't.
Maybe,
Rather
Yeah.
than a
Go to
shall.
that section in the,
Yeah,
well, but I'm gonna,
Yeah,
just
roll to that after.
highlight over the shell, so they can see, just scroll. Shall to a may,
Number 2.
on 2B.
to approve ordinance 2025-9-R. With the change that on 2B, yeah, scroll back up so I can read that. Under streets may be.
That works for you, Mike? I'll second it if that works.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Hoyt.
R.
But he means to say,
okay.
Okay.
aye.
Any opposed? Amended.
I already did that, she's got it.
So, we first received some complaints from a resident that was traveling on the sidewalk on Geneva Road with a scooter, put them a little higher in the height. So we started with the plan of just trimming up the trees a little higher so it could pass. And then after looking back, I drove all the side streets and driveways that come into Geneva, so you can see the picture. This is a view from a car, okay? So you can see that the view is blocked. And then if you are on a semi, like they usually are some bigger delivery trucks, then the height's even you're higher and the visibility is even more limited. I said, well, we'll just cut a couple trees back from the intersection so we can actually see and preserve the trees. And then we can also do the trimming so it could be safe. After I started looking back at the actual utility map, it turns out that there's a storm drain that goes are just a little bit shifted. They're shifted because there's a storm drain line underneath that. To actually TV the lines and see what kind of damage we have with roots. And you can see in that picture that Adam is bringing up are pretty full of roots. That one is getting to the point where it's backing up all the water. Of course, there's all this garbage. And when we try to go jet it, we don't get saturated with the roots are blocked. You can see them just growing. Guidance of how much we want to save the trees, that I save the trees and that I can go with a root cutter and try to get into a maintenance schedule to capacity in the storm drain line.
What is it? To cut the roots out.
To cut the roots out, the last time I had it done, I spent about $3,000 a day to get the roots out of what used to be the storm drain line between 800 West and Geneva Road. And cutting and cutting and cutting, and then we ended up those trees you've seen, they've been there for they're taller trees, so they started to actually break the piping.
Do we have any code for how far a tree must be from a water, culinary supply, a sewer, storm drain?
We do not have a code, for example, there's another scenario on, I think it's 20 South. They actually installed a pipe in the middle of the road that is about 14 feet deep. From it, and we're still getting older. So if there is a pipe, if there's water running through it, a tree is gonna find it, you know.
Right along Geneva where the trees are been removed,
We love trees.
it's just kind of ugly.
Yeah, so,
This stretch has been problematic for years, though.
Yeah.
We've had to
Some are
trim them
gone.
up several times over the years that I've been here. We've had some where we've removed already in some
Yeah.
sections, and we've had complaints over the years, not just recently, about visibility, and so.
what we're hoping to accomplish here is as new development comes in, you can see that they're actually landscaping behind the sidewalk.
Closer to their parking
Right,
area.
so we have curb and gutter, we have a little bit of park strip, and then we have the
But
the
not all
sidewalk.
of them do. Yeah.
Right, so this part, we also have power lines, so it's just a matter of time before we're also getting into the power lines. The trees are already being trimmed on the street side by all the bigger trucks that go through there.
Yeah, because kind of my question along that same line is, when you buy a plant, when you buy a tree, it'll tell you at full maturity, it will be this tall, this wide, that type of. Is there such a thing for the root structure underneath, that it's some type of a tree that we're not pulling back out, some type of vegetation, yes. Something to be looking at, I don't expect anybody to know the answer at this point, but
That's the question I have for you
then you're
is
looking at visibility and.
Yeah.
what we do. For the visibility, definitely I think we need to at least go cut 2 trees back from each driveway or each intersection. As far as the roots go, I can just keep doing the maintenance, rooting out of the pipes, but then they start little, and after a while, it's amazing how strong those roots are, that once they get into the pipe, they just start, the concrete just like a sidewalk, it just lifts it all up, and I think you have a map there, Adam.
Do we maintain this now?
Yeah, this is
We mow it and,
No, we do not mow it. We turn all the maintenance over to the property owners.
Which map?
That one right there. So you can see
Yeah.
that pink and white line
Is there a street?
is directly underneath the trees, and the pipe is only about 3.5, 4 feet deep from there.
Grasses or bushes, so there's something beautification.
You can ask, but they're already responsible to maintain that area.
Like a
Who
flip
put,
the
did
strip.
we put the
So
trees in?
The city actually put all of these trees in along Geneva Road. That predates me, but my understanding is this used to be unimproved, and the city did an improvement project and put in the curb gutter and sidewalk, and then planted the trees as part of that project.
Is owned by the city or
City.
by the
It's
city?
in UDOT's road right now.
Okay.
The parcel lines, like that red line on the right, that's the UDOT right of way.
So technically, UDOT owns all the land there. Now, in this scenario, in this picture, Mayor, you see 965 building. They have curb and gutter, they have their parking lot. But then that's the area that I was gonna remove 2 trees to be able to get good visibility, and that leaves just only 2 left. On the property to the south, that is on the process of being developed. And
They'll be required to do
with that
landscaping
development,
setback.
they will have a
Yeah.
landscaping setback, that if you go to Google Maps, probably Adam, if it's not too much of a trouble. development, north of, Public Works. That one Nicholson, see how they have the sidewalk and then they're putting the actual landscaping behind. I think as things develop there, requiring for them to landscape, so that big
What about
WOIC.
their
This section
little-
right here, that this is all being, those will all get taken out and they're actually moved back into the.
We've got the
Yep,
trees in our strip,
these
but
would
they
come
have,
out, these would stay, right? Juan?
Right,
those
those
are on
will
there.
stay.
So just that north piece, could we say to them, hey,
It's a used car dealership that they actually just, I think they store the vehicles there, not that they do the actual sales from there. But we asked them, says, hey, are you okay if we remove 2 trees? And says, well, they are quite messy and they kind of make our cars kind of sappy. And so we can ask them to encourage them, but I think they have enough green space there. We can probably ask them to maybe put some shrubs. The other thing is the power line right there. We can go something.
I appreciate the things we're doing for the future, because that was kind of my line of questioning. I'm very much in favor of doing this to remove them.
Actually,
safety and,
a new corridor from when we go replace the water line here that is also aging. Rather than put the water line in the street, my thoughts are about swapping the storm drain for the water line, put the water line where the trees are, and then put the storm drain out to Geneva Road right next to the curb and gutter. So that way that pipes that are gravity operated, you can actually rebuild the pipes from the inside, where a water line you actually have to water line is also almost right next to the curb and gutter. So corridor there, by not having the trees, will also help us in the future. It's not that we're gonna go put a water line here in the next,
The landowner, you'll work with all the landowners before the trees.
yeah, we already kind of approached them to see how they feel about it, and they said, actually, are the people that are coming and delivering from there that says that those trees are an accident waiting to happen for our drivers. I agree with you, Mayor, to make it look pretty, but this is
we don't have to do trees.
we can do
Still make it
xeriscape and do some kind of grasses and things like that. But a lot of these property owners, I don't know if there is something we can do, work with them to.
Watering that grass right now.
The city had the sprinkler system, but we turned it over to them. Water meter still on our original sprinkler system that was installed, and he well, my question to you is, or do I?
it would be a separate item entirely, but when I was driving with this item in mind, there will be, I mean, it is like an aesthetic question, but safety and infrastructure take priority for me over aesthetic. But is there some other way that we can improve? It's just tall weeds. There are a couple businesses that do really, really well. Like Ari looks really great. DM Fashion looks really great. And I was like, it can be done, but that's the thing right there.
Yeah, so this whole section that's. Will be redone as well. So this section will be improved. So other than that, there's probably other spots. This one down here, in front of the rail yard.
Yeah.
It's being in the.
But again, as these redevelop, there's a current proposal right now on.
So what do we do until it's developed? I mean, there's imminent development, but then there's like, when it gets developed, doesn't someone currently own it? Like right now?
Sure, yeah, and so if it becomes a fire hazard or something, we'll send notice that you gotta cut the weeds down, but we're not requiring landscaping.
Sure. At least
Bad for the trees to go, but I think it's fine if we need to remove them. Budgeting some funds to. Has to,
Fast to.
Storm can back up
Into
sewers.
the sewer, so,
Yeah.
good point, Mayor. For example, when we had that last horrible storm last August, Geneva Road, we had to close it because of, stormwater wasn't draining fast enough, but then we also have all the sewer, lids on Geneva Road that were underneath the water. So water was, if we don't evacuate the stormwater fast enough, it will get into our sewer.
Yeah. Ask council that decided to put those trees in as well, because that road is not the prettiest road we have in Lindon, and I might dare say the ugliest road we have in Lindon. And so anything we can do, like the mayor said, so. But I'm with Van and I support the proposal.
Ready, I'll make a motion. I move to approve the removal of city trees along Geneva Road as presented.
Having that vision for the future.
Sorry, I've been cutting so many trees in the city.
Good thing we planted 1,020
Yes,
this year.
but I think,
Going.
We'll just keep that a secret amongst us.
Support him for his board nomination on this next one. Tree cutter.
Yeah, I don't think you need.
All right, item 11, this is also review and action.
So, this resolution is actually doing two things. It's one, it's approving our joining of this interlocal agreement for the North Utah County Aquifer Council. This is a together and have paid to study the aquifer levels in the North Utah County area, and then looking at recharge efforts. The primary location as part of this organization is in American Fork Canyon, right at the mouth of the canyon. There's an old rock.
Central Utah.
Central Utah purchased
Central
that.
Utah Water Conservancy District
And
purchased.
then American Fork also, I know they have a recharge area right in the gravel riverbed there also, don't they?
Yeah, it's all part of the same project, but they also have a few ponds that they get there. That's their secondary water used for irrigation. The
This comes out.
the recharge area, if you go at them, it's on the actual gravel pit. Area we started doing some. There's a surcharge or abundance of water coming from the American Fork River, and even Central Utah has a aqueduct that they can actually, if there is a surplus, they can actually. And it's been part of that. We pay a fee, and then we do all these studies, and then we go on.
Call it NUCAC?
NUCAC.
Sounds like medicine.
Is this a new interlocal agreement besides the other ones?
So this organization has been in place for about 10 years, 10, 12 years?
Have we not been, I thought this is the, which one have we been a part of?
We paid to participate in some of the studies and have that access to that information.
We haven't been a part of it, we've just participated in studies. Okay.
So they were backpedaling, we paid in, so the fees they don't go up just because we're making an agreement. They're just kind of lacking. We were part of the group, but now we're making it all official. And then we're inviting pretty much every city north of so we're able to map the drainage of the basin, and they decide, okay, this area is pretty much the aquifer. And then we submit our data for how our wells are behaving as we pump the water. And they're able to measure how the aquifer is behaving. And it takes about 2 years for the water to reach from a big snow event to make a change into. Provo City is just a little background. They're actually having their own recharge system. Studios used to be Freedom Boulevard and kind of behind the old Food for Less there. They're actually making but they're actually treating the water to a drinking standard, and then they're putting it in the ground. Instead of us, we're just kind of putting the raw water and let it clean the water and then put it in the ground. A lot of efforts to keep.
NUCAC is planning.
We're doing raw water instead of treating the water to the drinking. NUCAC is focusing on the recharge right now, and then part of the study is saying, okay, if we don't recharge the aquifer fast enough for the demand that is coming, charge to more water planning of if we have to start trading water from the kind of like doing a recharge to maybe do smaller regional water treatment facilities. we're all putting our straw in the same. Active.
Problem solve and then show that we're being really good stewards.
So this has been going on for a bit. We've only been participating on this side. So what do we miss out on by not entering?
Don't have our voice heard. Of Lindon and I have brought in the past 5 years to have the different ideas, different ways of.
Influence
Control
decision.
How it will happen to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a bigger group that is all represented. If we just have the Central Utah and Orem and Lehigh, then speaks well that we're part of it instead of saying out and
Right. Is there a cost?
yeah, we pay $6,000 a year to be.
We're already doing.
We've been doing some participation.
Yeah, we participated for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years.
Sounds right.
So we already have that in the budget?
Yeah.
Questions? I'll make a motion. I move to approve resolution 2025-15-R as presented.
By Councilmember Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Finally, we have now item number 12. This is a review and action for an interlocal agreement. More discussion on water.
Yeah, Vineyard, this is a request by Vineyard City. They are updating their emergency management plans, and we actually have 2 existing connections that are shown on the top of that. Just off of 1600. Plus years ago, when Anderson Farm started, or Anderson Development started developing. Last few years, there's been some master meters and things, but
I think this part of Vineyard, they never really had the water supply, so we hadn't, when this was going on, we provided the water because Vineyard wasn't able, well, they didn't have the infrastructure. Then we kept them as a connection, and just kind of how we have connections with Orem and with Blessing Road. Part of their master plan, water master plan update, they just want to consider these 2 connections and just formalize them with an agreement. So we have the same connections with Blessing Grove and Orem.
And Orem to help us.
It's reciprocal arrangement.
There's no way that Vineyard will ever provide water to us because there's lower. And we wouldn't provide the water for the entire city of Vineyard, it's just a connection with Lindon, then we can provide water here, but then they have an emergency connection with Orem, and they have connections with,
But they do reciprocate, for example, our Geneva Park Resort, you know, the plan. Their infrastructure, so they, it does go both ways, yes.
Could we exchange it? Glad the mics aren't working
They
today.
are so proud about.
Make sure
their
that doesn't
own
make the minutes.
Mayor that will be
Kinda.
coming.
The agreement was written where we have a lot of ways to exit this if it causes any problems in our system or if we're unable to serve.
As I've read this just makes a lot of sense, being a good neighbor, being responsible, protecting Linden, but being able to help. Communities have helped us in need, and we want to be able to do the same.
I've used this connection actually in the past 6 months. All this, we went around. They tell us when they're done, we close it, send it.
Did I read it right where it says like, one of the trigger points is if our reserves get below 50%? That's like one of the indicators we would use to. I guess I don't know enough about how much we have. Is that's a good level, 50%, or should it be higher? Could we provide all that we needed to?
They start draining us too fast that we cannot, as we pump, that we cannot bring our tanks back to that 50%. 50% is where we have so much fire flow needs, if there's a fire going on at the same time,
Yeah.
that we say.
Great.
We talked, their consultant is the same as the consultant that we have for, that did our master. Collaborate very easy, says what's the safety measure? Tanks, right now, we have about short of 4 million gallons capacity in our drinking water. Because we're not to complete build out, we probably just fill our tanks to about 80%, 75%. That does two things. We keep fresh water in our tanks because then we drain. We also do not drop below that. Our wells have enough capacity that we can say, okay, if we're more, we can actually crank our wells up higher so we can keep. I think we have a good out, but it's also a good way to provide emergency. Are filling up swimming pools and running to say. Orem, they actually, with Orem, it's not just opening a valve, they actually have to go with a spool.
I will make a motion unless there's other questions. Approve the interlocal agreement with Vineyard for emergency water connections as presented.
To the last item on their session. To what it's in regards to.
Discuss potential purchase or sale of real estate and pending or possible litigation. Rebecca.
Seconded by Councilmember Brooks.
Do it by your
Alright,
name.
so go ahead, just one at a time.
Cole Hooley, aye.
Jacob.
Van Broderick, aye.